r/AskReddit. Lifelong blind people of Reddit, what do you masturbate to? Have you tried closing your eyes and listening to women's tennis? Yes, it sounded like someone was shoeing a horse. I saw the answer to this once. They have narrated porn for the blind. It was actually pretty funny. Actually URL https www.pornhub.com videosarc SCARCH equals NAR RATED plus PORN plus BLIND. I put on my band wizard hat. If you are interested in web accessibility standards, please read about them here. https www.w3.org standards web design accessibility. Rugged World Audio would work for me. Kawalka, what are you listening to all the time? Me, bagpipe music. Removed. When I was in high school, I volunteered at a special radio station for the blind. It was a free service on a secret frequency, where you had to have a special receiver to get the station. You couldn't just tune into it with a normal radio. Because you had to qualify to even hear it, we didn't care much about broadcasting copyrighted content. Once a week I'd read the A section of the local newspaper for a half hour, picking out the most interesting stories. The next half hour I'd read the ads, circulars, and mailers, because blind people gotta know when the grocery store is having a sale on food too. But the best job was probably the 11 PM slot, where the adults would come into broadcast and read Playboy and Penthouse articles for the blind. Edit. Find your local station and volunteer. https iways.org stations. People that don't understand text-to-speech technology has fucking existed for decades. Braille erotica that describes smells and feels. Watch Robin Hood Men in Tights. Better put a serious tag, unless you want people to blindly comment. I did not see this coming. Deleted. How do you think I got blind? The sound of feet. Jesus CHR. Okay. My friend actually asked me a similar question. I'm not blind, I just have aphantasia, which means I can't picture anything in my mind, at least not when I'm awake. I still have dreams etc. Instead I just build a scenario in my head and focus on the emotions and thoughts, and it does the trick. Till people can see images in their mind's eye. It never occurred to me that was a thing that I'll act until now. Edit. Okay, I went to do a little research on this, because it seems that the concept of mental imagery is necessarily subjective, and your version of I can't picture anything in my mind may be very different from what I'm interpreting it as. I found this Scientific American article which discusses aphantasia, and one section resonated strongly with me. https www.scientificamerican.com article In the Mind's Eye is Blind 1. The first mention of this phenomenon was apparently Francis Galton's breakfast study from 1880. The British naturalist asked 100 adult men to talk about the table at which they ate breakfast each morning. He requested information on the lighting, sharpness, and color of the images in their head. Much to his astonishment, 12 of his subjects were unable to tell him much. They had assumed up to then that the phrase mental imagery was not meant literally. I imagine sexy voices. Some women's voices do it for me. The attractiveness of listening to a woman's voice really came to me after watching the movie Her. I think it could be a good movie to listen to. I love Mrs. Incredible's voice. Blind lass here. I don't want to get too graphic, but I'm big on reading and visualizing. With a good paperweight, you can pretty easily read with one hand. Blind people can use Reddit. I don't exactly know how, but someone in Reddit was going off on how people say this all the time. I've been totally blind since the age of 4, so this has turned into a joke, basically, which is pretty typical for these kinds of questions. And though I don't take it personally most of the time, I do have to wonder how people are still so ignorant about certain things blind people are capable of, and have been for decades. Anyway, here's my cross post from the stupid questions. I mostly read faster paced erotica from literotica.com as people suggested, and I'm so incredibly used to the TTS voice I use that it just blends into my own internal voice and becomes a sort of personal narrator. It's weird and I'd love to see a study on it, because I also use it for non-erotic fiction too. Aside from that, just regular porn that has a good audio quality and happens to have more vocal element or close-up body sounds, which I wish was much more common. BDSM happens to be really good for this for obvious reasons, but I don't like a lot of how it's done in porn. Digital camera beeps and camera people breathing really takes me out of it though, along with traffic and hearing music, and talking and sit from other parts of where they are filming. For instance, though she isn't really my type at all, especially after reading her physical description on a porn star bio site, too fat to be considered curvy emo, and I honestly find her pretty annoying. I enjoy glory fox because she's so vocal. Blowjobs tend to be quite loud too, but I don't like hearing the guy moaning much, especially with the dumb comments they tend to make. As for Playboy, yes, they do actually braille the articles now, which is interesting I guess. Never read one though, and no real wish to either, lol. And there are a few audio porn sites, but they aren't very popular among the blind, that I know of, shitty narrators mostly. ASMR is an interesting angle, but it never really did much for me personally, neither sexually or the response itself, just too weird for me. I don't like the stuff directed at the viewer anyway. To expand on that, I also think about characters from books and movies, TV, video games and such, based on their description or voice, or think up my own scenarios using previous material. If anyone has more specific questions then feel free to ask, but maybe you should check my profile first, because I've already answered a lot of the most common ones near the bottom. Why do so many people not know about screen readers? They really think blind people just sit around their homes doing nothing all day, don't they? Of course not. They have mountains of braille texts that they read in their leisure in between practicing martial arts. Can we lock this thread? It's 50% people asking how do they see this lol and 50% people spamming random letters, mocking a blind person trying to type on a standard keyboard. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to plug one of my favorite NSFW subs, Rugged Audio. Great content for you blind folks and even the non-blind folk reading this to their blind friends. Same as you minus the site. You think about a sexual encounter that you would want to happen, and you see the person and smell them, and feel them and so on. They do the same minus the see them part. Sir, we use no imagination, we watch people being spanked for sneezing too much. I was truly expecting a serious answer. Sometimes I forget this is Reddit. Phone sex 1 to 800 lines used to be a thing. You don't actually need to see something to get turned on. The old cliche for guys calling phone sex was for them to ask the woman, what are you wearing? So I wonder what blind people ask. I met an old man, deaf and mute, who lived alone with 2 cats. He made me understand he loved them dearly and had names for each of them. Priscilla after his mother and Roll, his best tiger sound, but I always wondered why, if you never speak their name. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you can see when I upload new daily content. Goodbye.